Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update regarding the tropical basin. And we've got a few things to talk about, not a lot. So we'll try to make it as quick as we can here tonight. But first, uh, today is a very special day, especially in the tropical meteorological community and it's not special for any good reason at all. Today is the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and we lost a lot of lives that day and learned a lot of lessons through that storm. And I am going to pause just here for a moment and take a moment of silence in remembrance to all the folks who lost their lives and dedicated a good portion of their livelihoods to this unfortunate storm. Okay, now let's take a look real quick back here. The official fatality count was 1,392 people who had perished in this storm. The one thing that I remember the most about the television coverage of this storm was the folks there, the tens of thousands of people that were stranded in the Superdome there in New Orleans, and it was catastrophic to watch the news coverage, and the damage was unbelievable and is still the costliest hurricane on record for the United States. And some of these storm surge values were absolutely incredible: 27.8 feet, 28 feet, 26 feet, 27.5 feet. Just unbelievably incredible storm surge. And this is Mississippi, folks. So, yes, a lot of people lost their lives there in New Orleans and the the Louisiana area, but Mississippi really got hit. Took that front right quadrant, as you could see, gusts 122 miles an hour, 117. So it was a massive storm that caused a generational amount of damage, and you can still see the scars to this day. Yep, and good evening, Lisa. Hello, everybody. Good evening, Martha. Yeah, yeah, and today is also the 4-year anniversary of Hurricane Ida, which pretty much hit almost in the same spot, but obviously was not a Katrina style system, thankfully. Okay, now let's get on to our forecast and discussion regarding the Atlantic Basin. We have our disturbance out here. It currently has a 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days. Now, this unfortunately does look like that it's going to have some consolidation after it, but as we could see, a tropical wave is forecast to emerge off the west coast of Africa on Sunday. Thereafter, environmental conditions could support some slow development of this system while it moves westward to west northwestward at 15 to 20 miles an hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic next week. So, as we could see, it's going to take a very long time for this to get across the basin. So we've got plenty of time to watch it. So now what we're going to do is we know that there's a seed coming, or a tropical wave, and we're going to see it, begin to emerge over the open waters. So what we've got here is our models that depict spin in the lower levels of the atmosphere. We have the European on the left and the GFS on the right. Now, these are looking for areas of rotation or spin approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. Now, we know we got to get out to about Sunday, and there comes our wave. We can see it starting to emerge from the African mainland here uh, Sunday afternoon, late Sunday evening. Now, as we roll this out into time, we are out here to our 125 days out. The euro does not have any type of real focused energy on this whatsoever, just more of a wave axis at this point at the as we could see here, with a little bit of increased energy here. The GFS, on the other hand, has a completely different solution, and this is starting to gain energy as we go through the model. Now, we're going to take this forward. We're going to run this forward another 2 days and get out here to day 7. Now, by the time that we get to the 7-day mark, the GFS has a very well developed Gabrielle out here. That's the next name on the system or on the list. The euro is still in the consolidation phase, is starting to increase the energy as we could see that monsoon trough is really starting to stand up, and it eventually will roll over on itself and get an area, it just increase the rotational speed. So now we'll run this forward, we'll continue. We see like a small blip there with the euro here at day 8. The GFS also agrees, but it is starting to get a little bit weaker in its signal. And the euro is not really keeping it very well defined as well. The GFS, as you could see by the time that we get out here to day 10, really hasn't materialized into much at all. And day 10, we have with the euro getting into about maybe a few hundred miles east of the northern leewards. The GFS is still way back here at 40 west. So, comparatively speaking, if this thing gets strong early and pulls up to the north too quickly, then what it is looking like is that it will not make it across the basin very quickly at all and could delay its arrival time by quite a bit. But now what we've noticed here is that we have a certain variance and deviation between the models. So now we'll check our sea surface temperatures. As you could see, if this were to follow something in the GFS frame, I guess, and kind of come up this way and maybe get up into this region, the water temperatures are a little bit cooler over here, comparatively speaking, to if it gets out a little further west and then decides that it wants to hang out. So as we could see, from about 45 degrees west and onward, there's plenty of oceanic heat content and fuel out there for a tropical cyclone. So the difference between the GFS and the euro will be interesting, because if it gets above 20 before 40, those water temperatures are not as warm as it is further off to the west. So we'll have to see how it all materializes. Now, what we have here is our dry air. This is a humidity models, and we have on the top the 500 millibar levels, and on the bottom we have the 700 millibar levels. The top will represent the atmosphere at approximately 18,000 feet, or a little over 3 miles above the ocean surface. And the bottom one will represent approximately 10,000 feet, so about 2 miles above the ocean surface. Now, again, we have the Euro model on the left and the GFS model on the right. So they are kind of viewed in the height of which they sit. So, as we continue to run this forward, we could see that there is a considerable amount of dry air in the mid levels, especially at the 500 millibar level. But here comes our little pocket of moisture. Now, if we get out to 5 days, we know exactly where our seed is by looking at the other models preceding this. So, we're going to kind of label them out right here so everybody can see what we're looking at. Now, in the 500 millibar level, in these two frames up here, there is a considerable amount of dry air over portions of the eastern and central Atlantic. That dry air is filtering this way and kind of this way. All right, it's been happening all season long. The 700 millibar level, on the other hand, has some dry air, but not the extreme dry air, and still has a little bit of moisture associated with the wave. So, we will erase this, maybe, and we will take this forward to day 7. Now, as you can see, as things are flowing through, we still have a great amount of dry air in the at the 500 millibar region that is preceding or in front of this wave. As you can see here, there is a great amount of dry air right in front of it. Now, at the 700 millibar level, we do see some dry air starting to infiltrate down into the northwestern side and potentially the western side of the circulation or wave pocket. The GFS, on the other hand, as we can see, has risen up and further to the north, but the GFS is already beginning to entrain some of this dry air. So if it does get north of the Cabo Verde Islands, like the GFS is calling for, dry air and a lot of atmospheric dry air is going to be in its future on top of the decrease in water temperatures. I mean, it's not incapable of tropical cyclones, but it doesn't have a lot of energy for tropical cyclones to tap into. All right. Now, if we run this forward to around day 10, as you can see, the mid-level area of spin associated with this wave pocket and the surface area of, or the lower levels on the Euro, it has a little bit of variance because this is not very coherent. This is not very organized at all. And then if you look here, we have a southern encapsulation of the circulation at the 700 millibar level. This cuts off the moisture flow coming in from the intertropical convergence zone. That would lead to significant weakening, if not full collapse. If we look at and compare that with the GFS, knowing that the GFS is back much further, you can't even see a coherent signal at the 500 millibar level, and this becomes more of an open trough feature here at day 10 at the 700 millibar level. So there's a lot of unknowns, and it's obviously, we don't even have the wave off of the African mainland yet. So without that, I mean, it's all hypothetical here. It really is. That's all that it is. Okay, now if we look at the other factor of our wind shear. Now, if a storm incurs wind shear or a change of winds with height, it's not going to like that environment. Now, if we run this out to day 5, we do know that our seed is out here. Now, the Euro does not have a development on that, but the GFS, we do know the GFS does have a development of that seed. Now, if we continue to run this forward, we will notice that there is a great amount of shear starting to kind of precede this storm. And the wave pocket never really gets its act together. Now, with the GFS, it kind of crawls up in there, but then that dry air also impacts it, the cooler water temperatures. And then by the time we get to day 10, we really don't have much at all. And all we have here on the Euro, by looking at that, is just an open, high amplitude wave axis at this time. So it is not a tropical system. Now, also keep in mind that we're out to September 8th by the time that we get to the day 10, and this wind shear there's another interesting feature, and please look at the United States here on the left side, the upper left side of the models. If you notice, and I continue to run this out, we've got a great amount of trothiness or shear and potentially a very strong frontal boundary that is forecast to move in by both of the models next week. So it'll be very interesting to see exactly how this trough and the shear and frontal boundaries really start to materialize as we get more towards the climatological peak of the season. Another thing with that trothiness, there's going to be a lot of rain associated with this, and there's going to be a lot of rain for the folks down here, especially across the Florida Peninsula. So I've got this here. We've got the NOAA model blend of on the left and the official Weather Prediction Center forecast on the right. So if I run this out to the end of the official forecast for the WPC, as we could see, they look similar. Granted, the NOAA blend of models has a higher return value on some of these rainfall totals compared to what the WPC has. But I would like to highlight that if I take the NOAA blend of models out another 3 days, there is a considerable amount of spread in our rainfall totals and a considerable amount of rain that looks to fall across southern Florida. So, folks down there, if this continues to be the case, it's going to be very wet down there across the southern Florida Peninsula over the upcoming days. All right, now let's jump into our ensemble models and see what we have as far as coherent signals and, potential trends. If we look at the Euro legacy here this evening compared to what we were looking at yesterday, there is a definite increase in overall, development potential and probability from the ensembles. If we compare that to the 12Z, 0Z, we don't have any kind of, trend ongoing. I mean, the trend was not much, maybe a little bit pulling to the north, now maybe a little bit more moving off to the west-northwest. So we are definitely going to continue to monitor this, but as of right now, we don't have anything offshore of the African mainland yet, so it's nothing to be concerned with other than, yes, this evening we do have more of a signal from the European legacy ensembles. Okay. Now let's compare that with what we have with the Euro AI. And the Euro AI is nothing compared to what the legacy model is. If we look at what it was yesterday, it had more compared to what we have today. Now, if we run yesterday evening's models, there was some signal this morning, overnight, then early this morning, and now the 12Z, we don't really have much. The 6Z, maybe a little bit of a signal there, but then it fell back at the 12Z. So the models are still kind of going back and forth. There is no consistency from run to run. If we compare this with the GEFS, and as we can see, we don't really have too overly much, especially west of 45 degrees. So again, we are going to have at least another week to monitor this as it begins to emerge off of the African mainland this weekend and begins its trek over the open waters starting this upcoming week. All right, comparing all these with the Google DeepMind. Now, I'm actually going to turn on all of the ensembles here tonight, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic. So as we can see, here comes our wave. Now, yes, everybody is going to notice the little orange blips associated with the stalled out frontal boundary. There's always going to be little areas of vorticity or small eddies that spin up along a frontal boundary. I will show you that here in just a moment on Earth Null. So this is going to be truthful. They're non-tropical, but low pressures can still develop. Now, if we look at our wave and our little area of interest out here, I'm going to actually stop it on 5 days because there are two areas that I want to highlight. One, obviously, being our Atlantic system. As you could see, there are some that get it well up into the intensity range. And then the Euro has a very wide spread in the orange ensembles here, but the Google DeepMind, also the old model, has a little bit of spread, considerable spread. But the new Google DeepMind is very interesting because if I shut all them off and just show you what the Google DeepMind is, that is a completely different story than if we add in their older model and then we add in the Euro. As you could see, their average mean tracks associated with these dotted lines are well separated from one another. So it will be something that we will continue to monitor, but right now it is certainly too early to say anything on that. And if the deterministic runs start to show scary scenarios, just please keep in mind that right now we don't even have the storm off of the African mainland, so it's all going to be for show. If that does occur and people start posting it online. Now, our other area of interest out here is coming out of the EPAC, and if I turn off the Euro ensembles and we just look at the DeepMind, we've got almost about a 50-50 spread of saying that this weakens and then moves out to the west, or it maintains some type of coherence and gets pulled up into the southwestern United States. Now, if I compare that with its older model does not agree with that scenario hardly in the slightest. But if I turn on the Euro is not 50-50, but the Euro does give it the opportunity also for this to potentially pull up and maybe increase the moisture across the southwestern United States. So it's certainly one to keep an eye on, and we'll go over the particulars on that in just a moment. Now, our nightly look at our MJO forecast, as we could see, it is still behaving quite erratically. It is well within the circle. It does not have an amplification look to it. And if we look at the ensembles, they're absolutely all over the place. So right now it's kind of a hit or miss is exactly what this is going to do, although some models are kind of hinting at maybe not an enhancement phase over the Atlantic, but we're going to have to wait and see, because there is certainly as the MJO has been trying to travel around the planet this year, it has run into a lot of difficulties, especially early in the season. And I don't know if that's going to behave the same way as we get into the latter part of the season. But nonetheless, it is something that we'll continue to watch nightly. Now, I'm going to pull up Earth Null here tonight, and we're going to jump up to the 850 millibar level, which we know that is approximately 5,000 feet above the ocean surface, or around 1 mile. Now, by going forward on this uses the GFS deterministic solution. So what I want to do is we're going to come forward 24 hours. Now we're out 32 hours, but look here off the east coast of the United States. We've got a small area of rotation. Now, this is frontal. This is non-tropical in nature. But as you can see, these troughs, if we come up, you can see these, the winds here, little areas or shortwave little bursts of energy run along this troughs. And that's where we get our showers and thunderstorms. And, right now we don't have a severe risk over the southeast. We may, depending on the development of this, we may see a marginal risk for tomorrow. It's not there yet, but it could as of the 0Z update. So it just shows everybody that, yes, there are little disturbed areas of weather that can spin up along this stalled out frontal boundary that is non-tropical in nature. So what you see on the ensembles of low pressures streaking off of the United States, yes, they're there, but they're non-tropical. So if we come back over here, though, and we look at the east coast or the west coast of Africa, we will definitely see our approaching wave. Now, we're 48 hours into the future, as you could see at the 850 millibar level. Here it comes. We're at 72 hours. And now at this time, it tries to get a little bit of cohesion and potentially a little bit of organization. We do know that the GFS developed a heck of a lot quicker than what the Euro does. The thing that concerns me about the GFS and its solution is that the overall wave pocket itself is quite large. It is a very, very broad area of rotation with a focus point here in the center. Is that going to occur? Maybe, maybe not. Because if we come down to the surface on here, we see that it is definitely trying to focus a center of just one surface circulation. There could be multiple surface circulations rolling around that, as if we come back just a couple frames. As you can see, there are areas and energy that we could definitely see multiple areas of surface vorticity trying to take a hold in one form or fashion. But if I come up to the 250 millibar level, this is up about 6 miles above the ocean surface. We have a low pressure here, a low pressure here, and this low pressure is forecast to kind of come this way, and it's going to be a shear vector. Now, we'll come back to the 250 here in a moment. We'll come back down to the 850 and run this forward as far as we can. And as you can see, even on the GFS, out 4 days, that's not very coherent signal. Now we've lost GFS. It doesn't go out any further here on Earth Null. But one thing that I want to show everybody is I'm going to come back to the 250 millibar level. And what we're looking for here is areas of counterclockwise spin in the upper levels. And as you can see, watch what happens when I run this forward. 24 hours, here it comes. 48 hours, 72 hours, and then boom. there is this little low pressure that develops, and that works its way across the basin. It's been an indicative thing all year long, to where we get areas of low pressure that run along the southern periphery of the high. And I could show you that here. The high pressure is the dominant feature in here, but above that, we have areas of low pressure that's dropping all of its dry air into this portion. Well, that's wrong. Into about this portion of the basin, because this right here, well, no, because this is on a curve. This right here approximately is our 20-degree north line. So, and just to kind of give everybody an idea, the relative humidity, boom, it keeps dropping this dry air in here. So with increased shear and a reduction in atmospheric moisture, that would hopefully keep things tamped down and not allow development to occur. Now, just a couple more days on our dust model. We are going to retire this on the September 1st. We're not going to look at it anymore unless it becomes some type of factor. But as you can see here, Saharan dust. Also, maybe not on our first one, but the one that would potentially come behind it. There is Saharan dust that could be intertwined with that one as well. We'll have to see. As we can see here from the Global Climate Prediction Center and their Global Tropics Hazards Outlook from September 3rd to September 9th and September 10th through September the 16th. Still the potential for development out here into the Atlantic Basin. So folks, season is certainly not over. And as you can see, when we get into September, when I say season's not over, right now, we are right here. Right at the end of September. We are just now getting ready to approach the climatological peak of hurricane season. So hopefully it'll remain, quiet-ish, but I would certainly expect something. All right. Jumping out to the Eastern Pacific, we have Invest 93E. Well, Invest 93E has a 50% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. The development percentages on Invest 93E have come down from 80% at its maximum. So maybe good signs that we won't get something there. As far as our other disturbance number 2, this is former Invest 99L's energy. And as you can see, it currently has a 10% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 60% chance of development over the next 7 days. If we look at it on satellite, it is a very large cluster of shower and thunderstorm activity stretching all through this, with areas of vorticity kind of embedded there. Invest 93L is this little thing here, but if you look in front of it, there are multiple areas of spin with, of course, let me scroll up just a little bit, that is former Juliet. So are we going to get it going? Not 100% sure, because it's not really been able to stabilize its convection. But boy, there is certainly some well-defined areas of spin out in front of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get something off of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't either, because it looks like that there is a little bit of shearing component here with the way that the clouds are being pulled off of the what looks to be kind of a barrier line. there of this air mass here and this air mass here colliding. All right, now jumping out to the western Pacific, we've got Tropical Depression 20 has not made landfall into Vietnam yet, is going to remain rather weak. It's a glorified and massive rainmaker, though. They don't need any more rain, but unfortunately, that's what's on the cards. And we also have a couple more areas of interest and invest out here that are not labeled on the Joy Typhoon Warning Center, but 94 and 95W. They're out there, so we'll continue to monitor that. All right, folks, that's about all that I have for tonight. Let me make sure. Let me go over any questions. Let's see here. All right, everybody, I don't see anything, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. Have a wonderful evening. We will be back. Oh, yes, Sammy, you are right. Let me, hold on. Okay, so I was done, but I need to tell a story. I do, because I had something, a couple members of the team and I had an experience yesterday that was sad and amazing all at the same time. We had an individual try to explain to us that a tropical cyclone will strengthen by its arms if the center of circulation is over land and its arms, quote unquote arms, stretches out over the open waters, and was theorized, and I used that word, or hypothesized, I used that word very, very liberally there, if this is a hypothesis, but said that a former storm that had made landfall as a category 4, moved inland, weakened to a tropical depression, and then its arms came back out of the open waters and re-strengthened back to a category 2 storm, all in the distance of approximately 200 miles. And to go from a Cat 4 to a tropical depression back to a category 2, no. And it kind of hurt our brain. I'm not going to lie to you. And, like if there's folks out there, if you remember storms in certain ways and you would like the official data for those storms, please, 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 reach out to your local meteorological professional. Hell, reach out to us. I will get you any post-tropical cyclone report that you would like to read the official data. So this way, maybe a recollection is wrong. Maybe you thought you went through category 2 winds and you really only went through 60-mile-an-hour tropical storm force winds. And, maybe you thought you had a storm surge forecast of 20 feet, but you really only had a storm surge of 1.92 feet. I'd love to help. So, dispel some of that misinformation. So, all right, everybody. Now that I've finished my story and my small rant, thank you, Sammy, for reminding me. And hopefully we do not have that again here tonight. I'm pretty confident we won't. But you never know. Social media is a finicky little thing. So I dare you to read a comment section. Half the time it's a toddler food fight going on in there, and I use food. I was going to say a completely different word with that, but you can just imagine things like monkeys and yeah. They just act like a bunch of kids in the comment sections and social media now. It's kind of pathetic. I thought we all left high school and middle school when we were younger, but hey, history repeats itself, I see. So, all right, everybody, I am going to go ahead and sign off here tonight. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Time here on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, have a great night, everybody. Good night.